to the first edition of the Weekly Hijack.
Hi, Jack.
Hey, Jack. So this is something Nick and I, hopefully if you're listening to this, you've been listening to us before on Derailed Trains of Thought. This is our first spin-off.
Yes. Soon we'll have all kinds of spin-offs, a whole channel. No.
Maybe
But
not.
we've been talking about doing something like this for a long time.
Yes, because we thought, we like to talk about TV shows right after we see them, and sometimes you need that little immediacy. So this is going to be a kind of a cut and dry sort of project we thought would be really fun. Just kind of give our immediate reactions to episodes old and new, although today we're starting off with an old series, one that you've probably heard us talk about before.
You might have heard once or twice.
Yeah, occasionally. It's a little...
Puss in Boots Travels... Oh, no.
No, we're not doing that yet. We're talking Lost tonight. So what we're going to do is every once a week or so, we'll watch a couple episodes at first, and later on, when we have a certain show returning, we'll kind of interchange between the old and new, little old, little new.
But just give us our reactions from having already seen Lost. So if you haven't seen it before,
yes,
there's spoilers.
This is not a show. This is not a podcast you're going to want to listen to at all if you've never watched Lost before, or you want to go through Lost for the first time with someone. This is not the show for that, because Nick and I will be, and everyone else, because we've got some other people in the studio with us. Well, by studio I mean family room. But we'll be referring a lot to
future episodes,
So
foreshadowing.
this is for people who have seen Lost before that would like to get our take on it, know why we love it so much even after all this time.
Watch it with us again,
yeah, because it is very easily available still. It's on Netflix and it's probably still on Hulu. It's one of the first shows that people of modern TV, I think I set a lot of standards, but it was certainly one that a lot of people got behind and marathoned and things like that. But like I said, it's cut and dry, so if you hear a dog kind of panting near the microphone,
that would be Lenny.
that's Lenova.
Vincent, I mean. So.
Well, we wish. But here in the family room, and this is liable to subject to change, but tonight we have in the family room Zach Hayden. You've heard him before.
He has something to say tonight, he says.
Nothing to say.
We have his girlfriend, Brianna.
Hi.
She's over there. Next to Nick is Natasha. How are you doing, Natasha?
Fine.
Fine. And then also in the family room are our honored hosts, Nick's parents, Kurt and Deb Hayden. Hey, folks.
Hi.
Hello.
All right, so we're all here. We just finished watching the
two-part pilot.
Which I'm always kind of sad that I wasn't part of in retrospect, I'm sad that I wasn't part of the initial audience who first watched
I wasn't
this.
either.
Yeah.
Natasha was part of the initial audience. And she watched, the whole season 1. She's like, you should watch this show. I think I remember watching, the finale of season 1. Mm-hmm. And then I'm like, why am I not watching this thing? So I'm like, why are they taking this baby?
No, I got into Lost in season 3 because initially it had been on while I was in college at the time. But yeah, so it's a very ambitious. A lot of people have said a lot of stuff about this pilot. So we'll see how much more we can add to that. It's very from the opening shot, very iconic in a sense from what Lost would be known for. Like that whole first scene of the giant plane wreckage.
The first 10 minutes is just, it never gets old.
And
it's very, very well done.
What's one thing that struck me this time that I thought was really fun is that in some of those first few minutes, you don't necessarily know, if you hadn't seen them before, you wouldn't necessarily know which characters are going to be the ones that our story is about. Like at one point, Locke's just kind of there in the background, and you don't know that he's going to be a main character. I don't think you could even recognize Terry O'Quinn right away.
And what I've noticed this time, too, is just, for a show that's about the plane crashes and the crazy island stuff, it starts and it keeps it the whole same way. The first, couple minutes, it's just Jack waking up. It's very intensely personal beginning.
Yes.
And Lost is always, part of the reason it works is because every episode is very personal, one way or another. And I think, I like to compare other shows to Lost and be like, why is this not working as well? And a lot of times because there are so many ways in this pilot it could have been too confusing, too many things. There's a lot of stuff going on, but it doesn't get deep into anyone, really. It just hints at stuff, and it just plays very naturally off
Yeah.
people. You know, it's like people just like, hey, who are you?
Yeah, for a show that became known for using the flashback format, this first episode, a lot of it is very kind of in the moment.
Yeah.
A lot of just immediate impressions. Oh, there's someone over here. There's the wing that's about to fall off over here. I mean, they accomplish a whole lot before their very first commercial break. We realized, like before the first commercial break, you were introduced to Jack, Kate.
Actually, mainly
Hurley.
I mean, you see Hurley and Claire, and
and a few other people, and then the whole Jack and Kate sewing him up scene, and then that night, basically the first introduction to the smoke monster, although you don't see any smoke yet.
Yeah,
just a big giant thing, and okay, there's more going on this island than meets the eye. But and
the number of things they throw in the smoke monster, they throw in the French lady transmission, they throw in the polar bear. They hint at Locke. They hint at, or you get stuff about Jack and not Jack, about we get a little bit of his alcohol thing going on. I mean, there's a ridiculous number of hints. You got Charlie being drug at. I mean,
you have Shannon and Boone being useless, basically.
Yeah. But it's interesting that nothing's explained. It's just you just see stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, there's very few downloads. It's not like they're like, who are, there's not, when you have a big disaster movie and you have all the characters, there's a lot of exposition. There's almost nothing.
Yeah.
In 2 hours of.
It just kind of throws you in, kind of deals. I mean, and the few flashbacks you do.
Everybody.
The few flashbacks you get are kind of just what were they doing on the plane.
Yeah. And they reveal stuff, but it's not exposition in the sense that, you're watching things happen.
You wouldn't necessarily even know from the pilot how important the flashbacks would wind up becoming, because you might just think, oh, this is showing us what it was like on the plane.
Well, and there's a lot of shows that'll do flashbacks for 3 episodes, and they're like, okay, we can't keep this up.
Yeah.
The Event back in the day.
Oh, yeah. We won't get into that. But yeah, and it's interesting. I commented while we were watching, for all the plot threads that they do, I mean, and they use a lot of the plot threads they introduce in it. There's a lot that might be in there that they thought, oh, maybe we'll do something with this that possibly didn't. Like, for instance, there's this weird thing with Vincent originally with the dog.
For a long time, I thought they would do something with Vincent. It was like a pet project.
Pet theory?
Well, pet, yes, no pun intended.
Oh dear.
But well, there's this. I read this book, Death Gate Cycle, and in the end, this guy's dog actually is very important and held his soul and stuff like. Anyways, so
really,
yeah.
Okay.
So he died, but he came back alive because the dog wasn't dead yet. Yeah. So I always thought I had this pet theory about Vincent being important in some way. So.
And in the end, he was just a dog.
He was just a dog.
But you never know. It's possible they may There's some shot there's one shot where he's watching the party go off after the front end of the plane. And it looks like he's watching, and they have some weird music going. So you never know.
Hey, you never know. Maybe the smoke monster was disguised as Vincent.
Okay. Unlikely, but
the interesting thing watching Lost second time or third time is that a lot of things, first time you're that could be something you realize there are just things they throw there just to make you question.
Yeah, no, that's true.
But the thing in Lost, watching, you're but it could be something. And then when it wasn't something, you're they failed me. And you're no, it was just something they threw in there.
Yeah. Yeah, that is something that gets forgotten a lot about when it got into all the theories and all the mysteries and stuff. That in a sense, it's just a kind of throwing you in this very experiential sort of storytelling.
Yeah.
Well, that's some of our first.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, they could have talked every 5 minutes on this first. It's they wound a tight ball and. Yeah. They unpacked it for 3 seasons.
Pretty much.
This pilot. I mean, even Locke's this. There's a light side and a dark side, and there's this old game, and I'm well, they picked that up pretty well in season 5 and 6.
I was gonna say no one really probably paid a whole lot of attention to that scene until near the very end of the show, and they're oh, that was a big deal. But because for the first few, especially the first season, then later it becomes very much more about just survival.
Yeah.
And the mysteries are kind of the side part. But
so let's get some. Any of our other watchers want to comment on your thoughts? It doesn't have to be profound.
Yeah, I know. Nick and I just spew out a lot of stuff initially.
No, I'm just enjoying watching. This is where the magic happens. I've never watched it before.
My mom listens to all my podcasts, and she thinks she's a mom. She thinks it's cool,
Yeah.
but she's never actually seen me do it.
I thought you meant that you never watched Lost. I was like, what?
No, I watched Lost.
So any comments from most guys? This is only the second time you've seen it. Right?
Yes.
I think this is my third time.
No,
It might be my 6th time.
Brianna's watched it a bit.
When I met Brianna, one of the first times I knew much about Brianna was that she was obsessed with Lost. So
Indeed.
Now, specifically the pilot episode you watched a lot, or?
Yeah, because I only have the first 2 seasons on DVD, so I just watch those all the time.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yep, that makes sense.
actually, Lost is how we grew the youth group.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was like 6 people, and then we played Lost, and then we had like 12, and then we just yeah. There was other things involved, but well, I like
Right.
that was part of it.
That was part of the initial draw.
Yeah. Because there's discussions you can have on Lost about that sort of
Yeah,
stuff. So.
yeah. One moment watching this that you and I looked at each other when Jack's telling his story about the surgery, and Kate says, like, my first instinct would be to run, and we're like, that's Kate. I mean, that's Kate in a nutshell.
I think in the future, if Brianna keeps watching here, we might have some Kate hate coming on. But
I try to be nice.
no, we don't care. We want different points of view than ours.
And it is interesting to have the perspective on all the characters is different after having watched the whole thing. You know, because in the pilot, Locke comes off as this creepy old man.
Yes.
As opposed to later on when you think, wow, this is an inspiring but very tragic figure. Here he's just kind of odd. And then Sawyer, you can't help but love, even though in the context of the episode, he's really a jerk. I mean, Sawyer's a jerk in general, but he's a lovable jerk.
Yeah.
And here, you don't necessarily have that kind of history.
You know what? Just in the whole context thing, Walt and Locke hit off really quick. And you have a sense that if Jacob had had his way, Locke would have, kind of helped. Those two would have been important people on the island,
Mm-hmm.
but they both went off.
Yeah.
Off the.
Well, apparently
rails.
Apparently, Walt came back to the island way later.
I know, but it in many ways seems like the plan A would have been Locke and Walt take over the because they connected right away, and I think you could hypothesize that if things had gone perfectly
right
in the Jacob plan.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Jacob and myself, one thing I was speculating to you guys was the first scene with the smoke monster tearing apart trees and stuff. What was he doing? Maybe Jacob and the smoke monster were having their sort of first battle for the future of the passengers, because like Man in Black's first instinct would be like what, to attack them or to try to.
I don't think you can do it
them,
if they're a candidate, technically.
Yeah, technically. I guess that is one other sad thing. Kind of, it's going to be about this first season though. Like, of all the 48 survivors, only like 8 of them actually lived through the entire show.
Yeah. Exactly. And some of them aren't even on the island yet.
Oh.
Some of the people.
Well, they're on the island. They're on a different part of the island.
You mean like season?
Oh, you mean like, yes.
People
that's
get
true.
off at the final. I guess some people get off and don't come back.
That's true. I guess, yeah, you're talking about like
Want Miles
and yeah, that's true. I wasn't counting that. I was just talking about the people that we saw in this episode in the pilot.
Sorry, so we keep talking. Any other Natasha, what was your thought?
I just think it's amazing that it holds together so well with the rest of the show, this pilot. Really consistent. Sorry.
Battling sicknesses around here.
Because I've heard that they threw the pilot together pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just like, we'll just throw this stuff in here.
And you can sort of see some of that.
Oh, yeah.
But they really used it as kind of their starting pad and, incorporated a lot of it really well.
Zach or Brianna, anything? Since Brianna's watched it 10 times. What's your favorite part?
Charlie Pace. Charlie Pace is the best character. He's just so...
Yeah, when he was about ready to sing his song, Brianna was all...
I knew exactly... I know when all of his lines come in, so...
You all, everybody!
And you need, in a pot like this, you really need a character like Charlie and Hurley to bring in some levity. They've got their own unique spin on the world.
Yeah, it's very nice. I guess we go ramble, but that's all. That's all I've got.
That's pretty good. Pretty good first start, I think. Anything from the elders over there?
No, like I said earlier, watching that pilot was explaining the whole show, kind of.
It does, man.
That started good. And Hurley was way overweight.
And for all the grief people give about him not losing weight, he does look bigger in this first episode, I think.
Yeah.
and younger. Everyone's younger.
Like I think Dad and Mom were saying it's like 10 years.
It's almost
2004, wasn't it?
Yeah, 2004 I think is when it premiered. So it's been almost.
It's been 10 years.
Yeah, well, it would have been September.
Well,
2000. Oh yeah, that is
10 years.
Oh, 10 years.
2004.
Yeah.
This is 15.
Yeah, right. Math is Nick's strong suit, not mine.
Though Saeed, I can't even say it.
Saeed.
Can somehow do that math in his head for 16 years. I'm like, that's impressive. I mean, he took some time. I mean, it's certainly possible he's a technical sort of guy.
Yeah, engineer. Yeah, it makes sense. Yep.
All
right. Well, we better wrap this up. So that is our first episode of the Weekly Hijacks, when we hijack the Hayden's living room and your podcasting time for some rambling about TV. So hope you enjoy.
This has been it.
And this is Tim. We'll see you next time. Bye.